Chapter 350. The reason Ever had taken the two of them along was that they had been the ones who had visited the Awakeners village in the Great Serene Forest as part of the first dispatched team. Although those who had lost their memory could not recognize the people and wasn't sure if they were the ones chased out of the village, she thought that Eamon and Finn might be able to. And fortunately, her expectation had turned out wonderfully correct. Was it certain that the ones you saw in the village within the Great Serene Forest were there? At Kishir's question, Eamon and Finn nodded simultaneously. It was when you, Commander, were conversing with the Awakeners of that village. After everything was done, the Nalan Knights were busy preparing to leave, so there wasn't much time, right? That's true. Do you remember that at their request, Finn, Gakane, and I went back into the village once more? Didn't I want to check if there were any traces left by the captured criminal? Yes, you had requested our help to finish the job without agitating the Awakeners living in the village. This was a story that Yudir only knew the part that Kana had summarized, had heard for the first time. Even after capturing Jen, the servant who had betrayed Prince Ajane and was hiding in the Awakeners village, the Nalan Knights wanted to carefully check where he had stayed. It was just for one night, but they wanted to be sure. Eamon, Finn, and Gakane were the ones who went back into the village to assist with this, while Kishir was conversing with Prince Ajane. The task was completed quickly as there were no specific matters, and the place we visited was a zone where ordinary people stayed. They were terribly uneasy when they saw us. We even briefly saw them fighting with each other. Finn added with a scowling face. He had been in that state ever since he had left him in the Great Serene Forest. Yes, well, we couldn't remember all those faces, but since it was such a peculiar encounter, it seems some of them still remained in our minds. I remembered them as we passed by the prison yesterday. If that's the case, it must be certain. Kishir's eyes sharpened. What did you tell the Knights of Tenno? We said nothing. We thought it suspicious if they knew we were interested in the prisoners, so we planned to act after reporting to you, Commander. Good. Let's go and see for ourselves. The carriage arrived at Finnard Square shortly after. Next to it was the security management team building, proudly welcoming countless visitors with its doors wide open, preserving its old style. The soldiers guarding the door were shocked at the arrival of the carriage bearing Duke Paleta and doubted their eyes. The same was true for Jimmer Phil, the late arriving head of the Tenno Knights. I greet His Grace, Duke Paleta. His appearance was a mess, not befitting a knight. Without even a sword at his waist and with his belt hanging loosely, it was clear he must have run out from a nap. Yudir, looking at the red face of the middle-aged man with a broad peeled forehead, thought Ever's assessment was indeed accurate. The fact that someone who didn't even do his duty dared to look down on others was merely laughable. I apologize, but may I ask what brings you here? I heard that my capable deputy Everbeck and members, whom I sent yesterday, saw some suspicious individuals in the underground prison. Considering the urgency of the matter, I came to see for myself. Eh? The Knight Commander's gaze darted busily between Kishir and the members standing behind him. The soldiers were no different, sending bewildered looks their way. Suspicious people, you say? There was no mention of this yesterday. I don't quite understand what you mean. It's a bit uncomfortable to speak in detail here. But Your Majesty, this is Tenno. If you come like this without any prior notice... Was there any need to tolerate the man, unable to hide his astonishment stammered 3 times at Kishir's words. The moment Yudi raised his hand, the ground under Jimmer fell and the soldiers surrounding them shook violently. Though the level of force was trivial compared to what they could normally exert, it was enough to make those who had been off guard scream and stumble backward. An earthquake! Ah, I saw a pesky insect fluttering around, and I feared it might harm the commander, so I used a bit of my power. I apologize for the inconvenience. It was my mistake. Jamerfil blinked several times in anger at Yudir's completely insincere muttering and abruptly stood up. What is this? How dare you? Yudir, did I not tell you that it's not good to use your powers like this when you're still not fully healed? But it was Keshir who scolded in a stern voice before Tenu's Knight Commander could speak. Jamerfil had to reluctantly close his mouth. How can your body heal if you waste your strength on mere insects? Why won't you listen? It really hurts and worries me. I'm sorry, but as someone closest to the commander, I thought I must naturally do it. The man who had been giving Jamerfil an infinitely unlucky glare bowed his head immediately in front of Kishir. It was as if watching a wild beast suddenly turn meek before its master. Kishir briefly widened his eyes, then chuckled softly. He gently caressed the black-haired man's cheek and whispered tenderly in a way that no one could misunderstand. I didn't expect you to use that as a shield here, but you can't say such cute things and expect it to be okay. Yes, be careful. Apologize to those who fell too. Yes, I understand. I'm sorry. Jamerfil finally accepted Yudir's apology. Though the voice remained insincere, he had no time to dwell on that. Surely not. That man is the one from the rumors? Even the unenthusiastic Knight Commander of Tenu had heard some rumors about the Duke of Paleta and the male member who accompanied him. But he never imagined he would see it with his own eyes. He swallowed in astonishment, recalling the whispers that had secretly circulated from Baron Wilhelm's mansion. Commander Phil, I apologize for the inconvenience. As you can see, my assistant worries about me too much and sometimes causes scenes like this. Earlier, he mistook a palm-sized cat for an assassin and tried to fight it. Isn't that adorable? Pardon? So, don't be too angry and watch the road more carefully next time. While the words seemed conciliatory, upon closer examination, each expression was anything but insulting. But the clarity of the smile and voice that delivered them was so spotless that in the end, Jamerfil could only lick his lips without uttering a word and turn his head away. The underground dungeon is that way. I will guide you, so please follow me. Duke Paleta and his soldiers heading for the underground dungeon received an entirely different gaze as they moved than when they had just arrived. Those who had seen an awakener, especially a cavalry utilizing their abilities for the first time, felt an unavoidable, subtle fear even if they said nothing outwardly. It was better to be shunned than to be ridiculed. Yudir thought so, proudly straightening his shoulders and looking around. All the people around him flinched and retreated when their eyes met, but only a few cavalry members managed to suppress their laughter, their faces expressing relief. The underground dungeon's first floor was not as dark as expected, since the ground outside was partially dug out to create windows. There was some light. The appearance of the unusual visitors with the Knight Commander caught the attention of the guards and the jailers. Amid the surrounding tension, Jamerfil opened his mouth with a stern face. Who are these suspicious people and why have they come? Can you tell me if this matter is related to the recent incident? No, it has nothing to do with that. We have only heard that there may be people imprisoned here whom seem to have been harmed by an awakener's abilities. What? Jimmerfield's brows furrowed in confusion. Are you saying there is an awakener here? No, they're most likely ordinary people. They just seem to have been harmed by an ability. Phil, how much do you know about the abilities of the awakener? Suddenly changing the subject, Jimmerfield concealed his displeasure and shook his head. Of course, I don't know much. To others, it might not seem significant, but all my soldiers who visited here yesterday are awakeners, and the cavalry has the priority to investigate matters related to awakeners. There is no time to explain, so I want to find them first. In short, it meant that explaining in detail was meaningless unless they were an awakener. Jimmerfil let out a shocked breath and called one of the jailers to give instructions for guidance.